So, Senator, as I understand it, the Vice President and Special Envoy Witkoff gave you a special briefing in the Situation Room late Wednesday on Iran. What you heard made you change your vote. Why are you no longer trying to stop the president from resuming strikes in Iran?
That actually was not my original rationale for voting for the War Powers Act. My original rationale was because we were not being briefed. We could be the Senate, the Congress, or the United States. And I felt it important that we be briefed. I agreed with the president's original goals. Those were not being achieved by my perception. Mm-hmm. And so before I could say, okay, everything's hunky-dory, I said, I need to be briefed. After the exchange I had with the president yesterday, I passed a note to Steve Witkoff. Steve, I would consider changing my vote, but I've been voting yes because I've not been briefed. He said, called me back in the hour, and let's have a briefing. We had it last night.
What did you hear that changed your mind?
So if the original objections were to destroy, degrade, if you will, Iran's nuclear capability, their ability to do a ballistic missile, and their conventional warfare capability, and we were supposed to be out of there in 4 to 5 weeks, with maybe a little bit of a sprinkling of regime change. That's how it came across. Mm-hmm. The regime change is off the table. That doesn't seem as if that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But it does seem as if the way they laid it out, the other 3 objectives can be reached. And with those other 3 objectives, now we have to trust but verify, but as they laid it out, they have a plausible plan by which to achieve those, and that's what I was interested in.
You wanted to get the details on the diplomacy.
Correct.
Okay. Because on Wednesday, you and President Trump had that angry exchange, raised voices, you said, along with other Senate Republicans in this closed-door meeting. He berated you for that vote you had taken previously to try to stop the war. You said you won't be bullied. Did you feel that he backed down by giving you that briefing? I mean, isn't sharing information just a basic expectation that lawmakers like yourself should have fulfilled? Like, why does it take a shouting match?
Let's back up a little bit, if we may. I'm a doctor. I am going to try and get as much information as possible to come to the truth of someone's diagnosis and the truth of how to treat that problem. As much information as possible. You deny me that information, and I'm going to be frustrated because my job is to serve with the information I have before me. By the way, I take that same ethic to public service. Mm-hmm. Our society has problems. What is the truth behind the cause of that problem? What is the truth about how to solve it? If you're not telling me answers, I'm going to push for those answers. So when the president was berating the 4 people that voted for the War Powers Act, frankly, I'm not there to be berated. And the president wasn't invited to dish out verbal abuse.
But that's what he did.
I raised my hand. I said, Mr. President, do you just want, is that a rhetorical question that you're asking why do we vote for it? Or are you really interested? He goes, I'm really interested. I stood up and I said, this is why. And I listed those objectives that I did not see being achieved and how the kind of endpoint of the war kept stretching out longer and longer. Mm-hmm. He began to speak over me. Unfortunately, I raised my volume to match his, and we spoke to each other like that. Or, shall we say, spoke at each other, not to each other. Now, I shouldn't have lost my temper, nor should he. But, you know, my wife will tell you, every now and then my Irish temper gets the best of me. Yeah. But point being, I needed to know. I need to know to serve my people in my state and my country. As it turns out, I got a briefing afterwards. In one sense, I actually accomplished the mission of what I needed to do.
But you had also said the American people need that information. So the American people aren't getting those public hearings and briefings.
So last night when I asked about that in my briefing, they said right now the negotiations are delicate. And they could collapse if they're not nursed along in the appropriate way. I can accept that. Sometimes you have to have some space for people to come to an accommodation. And that's how they said, that's the reason they said for their kind of lack of being forthcoming. I can accept that. Mm-hmm. But my goal was to be briefed, to have the truth in order to make a decision for the benefit of my country. And that was satisfied.